We've got tips and recipes for healthy living. So for fun and inspiration, come and join us in the raw food world.
Welcome everyone, this is Matt Monarch with the Raw Food World TV show. And today is Tuesday, February 17th? And today I have a very special guest. I have Mr. Spontaneous Creation himself, Jock. What's your last name, Jock?
Doubleday, like the books.
Jock Doubleday.
Yeah.
Awesome. You're into raw foods?
Yeah, I am into raw foods.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. How much percentage would you say you are?
To tell the truth, I'd say it's only really about 70%.
Cool. Awesome. I have a couple questions for you because I know
Yeah.
you're an expert in the field. Is there any vaccination that you would give somebody, or are they all bad?
Well, I was doing a radio talk show on childbirth about 8 years ago in Nevada City, California. And I'd been on a few times talking about childbirth and breastfeeding because I'd written a book on childbirth called Spontaneous Creation, 101 Reasons Not to Have Your Baby in a Hospital. And they said, we want the next show to be on vaccines. And I said, well, I don't know anything about vaccines. And they didn't say pro or con, they just said vaccines. So I was like, I can't do the show because I don't know anything about it. And they're like, well, we're not going to have you back unless you do the next one on vaccines. And I was like, okay. So I did some research on vaccines, and I thought vaccines were the greatest good. That's what I've been told. That's what everyone's been told, you know, their whole lives in school and medical school too. Doctors are told that's the great salvation of mankind. We finally conquered disease, you know. So I was finding some weird things on the internet, and I thought, well, I got to get some books. So I bought 27 books on vaccines.
Wow.
I read 27 books over a period of 7 years. And then I wrote an article called Into the Labyrinth, Discovering the Truth About Vaccinations. And basically the truth is that there has never been any science that shows that vaccines prevent disease.
Wow.
There's never been any science that shows that any person has had their health improved by vaccines.
Wow.
If you look at the charts, the graphs of the decline and fall of disease, you'll see that vaccines are usually introduced at the very tail end of the decline.
Wow.
Like especially with, if you look at measles, the measles incidence goes up, comes down on its own naturally, and then just at the tail end, the measles vaccine, and it keeps going the same way it was going anyway. Sometimes the vaccine is introduced and incidence and mortality rate goes up. So if anybody wants to look into vaccines, go to my website spontaneouscreation.org, go to the links page, and look at Discovering the Truth About Vaccinations. And basically, it's the first article on the right there. And,
Wow.
And there's an Egyptian Eve with a poison apple, just wanting to give it to you.
What's the purpose of it? Why do they do it then?
Why do they give you vaccines?
Yeah, why do they think it's necessary?
My estimate is that about 60% of a family MD's income comes from vaccines. It's all money.
Okay.
It's all money. But vaccines have been shown to. It's not new news that vaccines don't work. It's old news.
Sure.
This guy Hadwin figured this out back in the 1800s, and he wrote a long treatise on it. And it's all been shown to be a big hoax. It's a fraud, but it's a fraud with a huge price tag, because not only are you paying money to the doctor to give you the vaccine, but you're paying in health costs, and your children are paying in health costs, and autism, and the vaccines even give you the very disease that they're meant to prevent.
Wow.
In some cases, like with the live polio vaccine, the flu vaccine will give you flu-like symptoms. It's like, well, I don't want to get flu-like symptoms from something that's supposed to keep you from getting the flu. I want to not have the flu.
Right.
You know.
Right. Wow.
So.
I was actually just watching a video the other day about this girl. It was on naturalnews.com. It just completely ruined her life, the vaccinations. It was crazy. Like, she can't walk well. She has spasms. It's just crazy. She can't be like a teenage girl anymore. And she just...
Was it Gardasil or was it the hepatitis B?
I'm not sure.
Because Gardasil and hepatitis B are so potent, so dangerous. If anybody wants to give your kid the hepatitis B vaccine, or which they want to do in the hospital when they're first born, don't let them do that. I can't give medical advice, but if it was me and it was my kid, I would say never.
So there's no vaccinations that you would recommend? None?
Well, the thing about vaccines is that when people talk about disease, they immediately think, oh, vaccines. Some are dangerous, but see, danger is not the prime issue. That's just a little bit of the iceberg above the water. Below the water is this huge part of the iceberg, which is inefficacy. Vaccines don't work, so you don't have to worry about the danger part, because why would you even think about getting vaccine since they don't work?
What about for dogs? Same deal?
Same deal. Dogs are just as thrashed by vaccines as human beings.
Wow. Okay, natural childbirth. That's your other forte.
Which is funny because I'm a guy. I'm a single guy with no kids. And
are you looking for a partner?
Why would I? Of course.
Ladies, Jock is looking for a partner. So if you're interested, comment below.
Right. But it's, when I tell people I wrote a book on childbirth, they're like, "What do you mean? I mean, you're a guy. You're not a doctor. You're not a midwife. You're not a nurse. You're not married. You don't have kids." And but to me, it's not about those things. For me, it was when I started reading about childbirth, just by accident, because Joseph Chilton Pierce had written a book called The Crack in the Cosmic Egg, which talked about paranormal things in other cultures, like firewalking in many different cultures. And then I saw his other book, Magical Child, and I thought, well, I'll pick that up. I really liked his. I didn't know what it was about necessarily, but I started reading it, and it was like, oh my God, this is the routine. These are the routine practices that go on in the modern day maternity ward. That's unbelievable. I literally couldn't believe how bad it was in the hospital for women and babies. So I started doing more research, just like with the vaccines. I read almost 300 books on childbirth, and by at the end of that, they are all starting to say the same thing, which was that hospital childbirth has routine practices that result in higher rates of infant mortality and morbidity, higher rates of maternal mortality and morbidity. And those are the only 4 categories, basically, if you're talking about, danger.
Wow, so you're saying natural childbirth, would people have you're saying natural childbirth, like, where people are so fearful to do something like that, is less dangerous, and the percentages, more people are having successes than in the hospitals?
Yeah.
Wow.
But there are a few cases, and I deal with those in the introduction to my book, Spontaneous Creation. There are a few cases that, if your midwife, and your midwife should be your primary caregiver. Your midwife should be your primary caregiver, not your MD. Your MD should be the referral from your midwife, because your midwife knows about these things. The midwife knows which conditions and complications should be referred to an MD. So if you have a midwife, and just so much information, and she says to you, "Oh, well, you've got transverse lie," which is basically where the baby's sideways in the uterus.
Sure.
And I've tried to turn the baby. Midwives are trained how to turn the baby, but if she can't turn it for some reason, then and if it's late in the day and you're about to have your baby, then she'll absolutely refer you to an obstetrician. That's one of the things that one of the few rare conditions or complications that midwives refer women to MDs to deal with, because they can't deal with some things. Now, breech birth, most MDs just say, well, the breech equals cesarean, because a breech is too tough. A breech is when the buttocks or the legs are coming out first, and that's a little more difficult for the baby to do that. So the doctor says, I'm just going to do a cesarean. Well, a midwife just says, oh, get on all fours, no problem. Or squat, do a supported standing squat. The husband stands behind the woman, she squats, and he supports her with his arms underneath her armpits, and that's that opens the pelvis up, and the tailbone swings back, just like with the all fours position, and breech birth is no problem for midwives.
Wow.
So there's only a short list of things that midwives need to refer the woman to the crisis care hospital maternity ward for.
Awesome. We're coming up to 10 minutes already, so the YouTube only does 10 minutes. So can you give us your website and any information you want?
Yeah, I have a little nonprofit. It's very small, no big deal, spontaneouscreation.org, and we have breastfeeding, natural childbirth, natural immunity, which is good nutrition like raw food, as opposed to vaccines. And natural fertility too, which is eating sprouts instead of getting those ridiculous fertility drugs.
Awesome, great. That was awesome. So today is Tuesday, tomorrow's Wild Product Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow at the Raw Food World TV show. Thanks, Jock.
Thank you.
Thanks Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again at the Raw Food World.